in the Memphis area called snow and ice and all that stuff very often. Although the last time I was here, I think it did snow. You can blame me for that one. I took it home with me. So anyway, so we're going to do that, and that'll have a little coffee shop in it, a big welcome center, some fellowship space. We'll get into the details of all that later. But that's the concept here, to try to give you a space to be able to go from one building to another and never have to go outside. Now, that's a novel idea. We have to do that up north. You don't have to do that down here, but we're going to do that for you because I think it makes a lot of sense, and it lets attendants show up when the weather's not quite as positive and encouraging. You know, I don't know about here in Tallahassee country, although y'all did steal the Memphis football coach. I won't condemn you for that, but I'm a diehard Razorback fan. Don't hold that against me. I was born there. I mean, you know, yeah. Prayer would be helpful. We're praying that they're going to win the SEC tournament next weekend. I'll be in Hoover, Alabama, watching that one. But I'm a diehard Razorback fan, but I live in Memphis, so I had to become a transplant Memphis Tiger fan. And when y'all took our football coach, the sweet lady that we go to the games with, Diane Fry, who your pastor's mother and father know them extremely well. We won't go back how far that goes back because it dates all of us. But anyway, she cried. I mean, literal tears. In fact, she told me when I was coming down here for the very first time, she said, "You just hook him up and haul him right back up here." So, but I'm tied to those two schools. The point of that is that we deal with things there that y'all don't deal with here. See, up there, we get snow and ice. And so when they play football in the snow and ice, people will park and walk uphill to the football game in 30-degree weather with snow on the ground, sit outside and freeze something that they sit on off watching the football game, right? And then when it's over, it's still snowing and sleeting, and they walk back uphill, which you can't do unless you're in Arkansas. They walk back uphill to their car. And the car may be 5 miles away from the stadium, right? Because that's the way they do it. Now, when you go over to East Tennessee, they're obnoxiously stupid. They do a lot more stupid things than that. But they won't park across the street and walk to church on a day like today. So we have to park them close. And we have to be able to provide covered drop-offs for them like you see in that, so they can get cover under their, so they don't get wet, because they may be so sweet they might melt. I mean, you know, some Baptists think they are. Y'all aren't that way, are you? They don't laugh very much here. Maybe they didn't think it was very funny. So that's phase 1C. And then phase 1D, once we get offices moved out, and once we get you a nice gathering space over there, we're going to make this lobby a whole lot bigger. And we're going to take all this office space behind us and put the music suite back there so they don't have to become Methodists to climb all the stairs to get up to the choir loft, rehearsal room, and then come back down halfway to get to the choir loft. We'll put them down on this floor, and we'll put 4 nice senior adult. None of y'all are senior adults. You wouldn't qualify, but we'll put 4 nice senior adults for all the old people that aren't here tonight, so they can have Sunday school right here in the same building that they have worship in. That's phase 1. 4 pieces. Timing is all driven based on dollars. So I've walked you through the phases. These guys have shown you every piece of it all over again. You've got a handout. So now we're going to open it up for questions. So if you have a question, wave. And we got a couple microphones running around, and we'll entertain one question at a time. And we'll go from there, and we'll answer questions so y'all start asking what color the carpet is, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be Razorback red, and then we're going to close in prayer.
All right. I'm back here in the back.
There we go.
Hi, welcome. And we'll wait till the end of this coming football season to determine whether or not we're going to send the coach back to.
You know, every coach is in the frying pan, so we'll see how long each of them last. They just get paid so much gosh awful money. It's ridiculous what it takes to get rid of them. But anyway, go ahead.
I understand. I really have just 2 points here. The first one is, why is putting in the covering for for letting people get off in the weather. The third thing, why shouldn't it be the second in your priority list? But the other question that I have is with the new office suite. First of all, it's not connected to the main buildings or any buildings, so those people will have to get out in the weather every time they want to come down here to deal with some issue of who's using this part of the sanctuary or this part of the other buildings that we have available. It seems to me that you could move that closer to this facility rather than sticking it so far away. You'd still have the same amount of room for parking and everything, and it would be a cleaner, more convenient location between the two buildings. Other than that, and I'll give you my really crazy proposal, if you leave it where it is, why don't you dig a tunnel that they can come in without going outside and protect them from the weather too?
He loves spending money. The tunnel thing's a great idea. So let me answer the questions in reverse order. The office location is shown on that site just to give it a home on this drawing. The exact location of that has not been determined. It may sit right where we show it. I understand the concerns that you voiced. Most churches typically run 2 programming functions at the same time. One is a 5-day-a-week office complex, and one is a church program that meets on Sundays and Wednesdays. And I know you have other things going on here, and they'll be running back and forth. And we may determine that moving it a little closer may be a wiser thing than where it sits. So let's don't get real hung up on the location. It needs to get out of this complex because we run the mechanical systems for the whole complex to take care of that piece. And that's not cost effective, nor is it wide stewardship of money. So we get it over there on its own systems, regardless of where it sits. And we put it where it is right now because we wanted as much people as close to the building from a parking perspective versus having the building closer and you having to park behind the building, walk around the building, trying to avoid shuttling. So there's that answer. The second answer to the first question, phases 1B and 1C, which is the office and the gathering space, works like the current computer vocabulary called plug and play. I can switch them. It doesn't make any difference. Y'all vote. I don't care. I can't do 1D before I do 1B. That makes sense? I can't tear up the staff offices and put the music suite back here until I get the offices moved somewhere else. That makes sense. We wanted to do 1A first because there's really some pretty interesting handicapped accessibility issues here. And even though there are reasons that churches don't necessarily have to comply with all that, it's foolish to not provide for it, okay? So if we're going to do that and re-roof the building and we fix the glue lamps, then this building is set for the future other than the cosmetic interior work that will come in a future phase you will see down the road. But you could easily take that phase of 1C and make it be 1B and put the offices as now 1B and make it be 1C. You could walk in here and say, hey, Aunt Sally died and left the farm and there's $5 million and y'all do it all. Just get on with it. Those two pieces could go together. I don't have to do them independently. We have them set up independently because we want to make sure we're being good stewards of the money as you raise it. And it'll be your choice whether you choose to borrow money or not. I'm not suggesting you do that, and that may come into a conversation later tonight in a question. But we want it to be where you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay? So I hope that answered your questions. Next one.
Yeah, I drive a minibus over from Cherry Laurel every Sunday and bring them upwards toward 10, 12 people. And I let them out. I can see where I could let them out just fine. But where would I put that bus? It's
Where's
about
the
half
bus going to park?
About the size of a school bus.
Where's the bus going to park? We will have bus parking in the new parking lot area right behind if it plays out just like that, between the office and the current preschool building, there'll be plenty of spaces for that bus to park without you having to take up 14 parking spaces to put it. So that'll be taken care of. I would not be concerned about that at all. Yes, sir, Mr. Jim.
Let me add on to that we are, with the building, we're also planning a pole barn with storage. So we park the vans, the buses underneath the pole barn, and also would have storage under there as well.
Correct. Yeah, we didn't show all that in this particular scheme because it really is not pertinent to the conversation, but we will have covered parking for all your bus vehicles. Yes, sir.
Can we make recommendations for one of the other phases at this point, or are we limited to 1B or 1A right now tonight?
You can make any recommendation you want. What I would suggest that you do is put that recommendation in writing and give it to that man standing right there in the red shirt.
It'll be done.
Thank you.
Who else has a red shirt?
I'm going to add a
Stand.
couple of my recommendations to give to him too. So let's just shower him with recommendations. There you go. Now, I didn't tell y'all yet, but at the end of the service, we're locking all the doors. Brother Jim's going to stand at the back with an offering plate, and y'all just start pitching in the money, right? I'm going to tell you something about money when this is all over. I want you to understand how this really plays out. Yes, sir.
Go right over there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, so my question is involving the covered drop-off, and it may be that this gets handled once it goes from conceptual to actually being in the plans. But what I'm looking at, I'm not seeing a good way that the water is being handled that's shedding off of that roof.
It's already been figured out. It runs back onto the low roof of the addition. We pick it up in roof drains and pipe it right to the storm system.
All right.
Yeah. Great question, though.
Well, I've just worked on too many buildings where I've seen it going through in that manner and it leaking into the building after 10
Yeah.
years, so.
Now, we'll catch it on the roof and take it in roof drains. Great question. Question here.
Couple of questions. Is the rainwater runoff pond going to be able to handle all this new construction?
Good
Or will
question.
it be enlarged to handle it by itself, or do we have to have another pond somewhere?
That's a great question. Let me answer that question this way. This is a 30,000-foot view. We have not engaged civil engineers. It's master planning only. We will engage a civil engineer as soon as we get started. We don't know what the capacity of that pond is. They'll have to run the calcs on that and see what it is. If it is not large enough, there will be room to put one to take care of the additional space that we're building and adding. Theoretically, based on what we're showing right now in phase one, the only additional impervious material will be the new office building and the paved areas of the parking for that area. The covered drop-off and the gathering space already has impervious material on it. It's concrete and roofs and everything else. We won't increase the runoff for that. If we do, it would be negligible. If we increase the runoff to where that pond out front can't handle it, or we decide we don't want to try to figure out how to get it from that space all the way around to that pond, there could be a pond located somewhere in all of that development on the back side of the campus to take care of that. But that will all be solved in a civil engineering conversation once we get started on those phases. Great question.
Entirely separate question. What is the access to the worship center from this new parking back towards the new office area? That's already a pain because we can't access that coming in the back doors because that's now the youth area and we can't come and go through that way.
Yeah, that'll all be solved in a future phase of work, and we'll have that worked out, solving this problem when we do the office building. So if you park on the south side or the back side of the sanctuary building, you will have a way to get to the complex and get to the worship center and your adult classroom without having to walk through the secured preschool children's space. We'll have all that solved when we do that office building.
Okay. What about in the back, that horseshoe green area you show in the aerial view between the two parking areas?
Mm-hmm. It will become parking over time as we continue to develop future phases.
I assume the pole building Jim is talking about goes somewhere in that area.
It'll go back on that back side back there. You know, there's a little pavilion back there now and a couple other small buildings back there. All those will be reevaluated, whether they're usable, not usable. We need to move them, relocate them, whatever. And then we'll accommodate additional parking in that space as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions. Question way back in the back, I think if you still have that question. Anybody else? Jim's going back there.
What is the time frame for each
What is the
phase?
time frame? That's a good question. It depends on how much y'all put in that pot on the way out the door. Let me say this to you at this point. That's a great question. There is no time frame. It's all based on dollars. And nobody's asked you to give a penny yet. Now, I do know this, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the pastor. I don't have the authority to speak on behalf of the church, but I will tell you that there's probably a little bit of money that we could start some of these projects as late as this late summer, early fall. And then I would venture to say, don't know, not speaking for the pastor. He'll have to decide how he wants to handle that and make that recommendation through the committee. But I would venture to say you're probably going to have some kind of a love offering campaign sometime or another here pretty soon. I can see that happening this fall maybe. And then depending on how that raises money and however you set that process up, we'll be glad to help you with that process if you need us to. Then that would then be the catalyst to start other phases. Y'all may decide, as the question was asked a minute ago, can we flip 1B and 1C? You may decide you want us to do it that way, and if you do, that's fine. We'll do it that way. And then we'll get into detailed planning and get detailed costs and all those things that go with it. We don't want to be ahead of the game too far, but we want to be ahead of the game enough that when you need the footage and you need the renovations, it's here and done. And I just have to tell you that I've seen God do unusual things in churches when His people get excited about doing things. Buildings don't do anything for heaven. God don't need buildings. But buildings do a whole lot for us to accommodate people who need Jesus and don't know where to find Him anywhere else. And so if we have those buildings and we provide that space, it tends to become an open door for them to find their way in and to find what their heart's been looking for a long, long time. Now, a good friend of mine, Bob Sorrell, who was the associate pastor under Dr. Adrian Rogers Bellevue for about 25 years, he and I talk frequently. He's still around, and he says, don't ever spiritualize a management problem, but don't ever manage a spiritual problem. So I want to be careful that we don't put those two things too close together. But at the same time, you never leave God out of anything. I was driving from the airport in here this afternoon, listening to somebody on the radio. I don't remember who it was. It wasn't a religious radio show. And the guy said, do you believe that God helps sports teams win and lose? And he said, yes and no. And I thought, how are you going to dig out of this hole, brother? And he said, God is in everything. Don't ever take Him out of anything. But He doesn't really care who wins. So you figure it out. He's in it for the people that are in it. He's not in it for who wins or loses. You learn more by losing than you do by winning. Churches learn more by reaching people for Christ than they do by not reaching people for Christ. Okay? Do this for me. This is a favor you can do for me. Everybody's fixing to go on vacation. When you go on vacation, if you're gone on a Sunday, don't lay in bed. Get up and go to a church you've never been to in your life. And pay attention to the things that you see there that you don't pay attention to here. And come home with the idea, I'm going to help get those things fixed, whatever they are. Because first impressions are very important. And your first impression at that church will determine your first impression that you come back here and see what you never paid attention to before in your life. And it will cause you to see what other people see. And it makes you want to then make this place better. God doesn't need buildings, Don't manage the spiritual problem, but don't spiritualize the management problem. All right, I waxed for way too long. Pastor has something to say, so I've already charged his.
Hang on just one sec. You guys are asking one thing, can you switch 1B and 1C? Theoretically, yes. Here, there is, however, a potential problem. The potential problem is this: night to shine. So night to shine is going to occur in February. Let's say we were to start building 1C, which is the enclosed walkway and the atrium and the overhang. If we're to start that, let's say, late fall, even wintertime, that is going to change radically our positioning in Night to Shine in terms of what we are able to do to accommodate that ministry. And so what we thought logistically was you start 1B because that affects no one or nothing at this time. Then after Night to Shine, you start looking at 1C because then you have a year for that project to be completed before the next Night to Shine would occur. And so I hope that helps maybe to shine some light or shed some light on that. And that's kind of our thinking going into that. Now I'll be quiet. That's all I had.
Great comment. Yes, sir.
3 questions. First one, looking at the layout, if you've had any correspondence with the city of Tallahassee in terms of layout, setbacks, green space, etc. Number 2, I know this actual church property is sitting on a PUD zoning. Back there sitting on an R1 designation. How are you guys going to address that? Are you starting to look into that yet? And then I would suggest the stormwater being looked at, because I know this pond infiltration is pretty low, and this basin here has some potential issues that would need to be looked at that could affect some layout and where ponds go, et cetera.
Great questions. Let me ask you a question. Are you a civil engineer?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this area
Yeah. Okay.
and that apartment complex
So,
that I worked on.
Jim, do you know this guy?
Yes, I know him.
Great.
You want me to escort him out right now?
Just get his business card and we'll talk later.
He just offered that up, Curtis.
Okay, so all those questions are very detailed civil engineering questions. He's spot on every bit of this. We do know this is a PD. We do know that that's R1. That's going to have to be resolved with the city. All those are resolvable issues, so it's not going to change the master plan. It just takes a civil engineer to get on board at the right time to help us walk through those issues. So none of that's a deal killer. We'll solve all those issues, but it's things that we definitely need to look at. Great questions. Thank you. Somebody else? Yes, sir. You got some more suggestions you want to give to Brother Jim?
No. It's a question.
All right.
I know the wheels of government turn real slow, but I also heard that the architects turn real slow. And I know this is a conceptual drawing, but how long does it take for an architect to draw the final plans before we send it to the city or county for approval?
Good question. The city, all municipalities turn real slow. They live on the concept, if I don't have time to do it today, I can easily get done next year. It's his fault? No, it ain't his fault. It's the people he works for's fault, but it ain't his fault. Architects are also known for not moving very fast. We are a little different than that because we understand what it means in a church world. And there are certain windows of time we have to get things done in to make things happen. That said, to answer your question, we were playing a hypothetical out this afternoon when I got here. If you called us July 1st and said we want to do the steps, the roof, and fix the glulam arches, we want that done before Thanksgiving. Not a problem. If you said July 1st, we want to start the office building in the spring of the year, assuming the money comes in the love offering process, not a problem. If you said we wanted to also start at the same time, right after your evening that you have here with that week, we want to start this building in the spring or this time next year, late May, early June of next year for that building, not a problem. Now, if you walked in July 1 and said, we want to start all those August 1, that ain't going to happen. I can't do it in 30 days. But we can make those things happen in 6 months pretty easily. Now, there's a caveat to that. I can't make the city move any faster than the city's going to move. And there are some issues, 3 of them got brought up here real quick, that have got to be solved. And so those things may slow the process down. It won't slow the drawing process down in our office, but it will slow the process of us starting construction. But there's so many things that have to get done that nobody ever sees. We got to find contractors. We got to get them all squared away. We got to get them under contract. We got to get a bid number. We got to get the church to approve it. We got to go figure out how we're going to fund it. There's a lot of things that happen while we're working through the city processes. We don't wait and start the city process when we're done with the drawings. That's not smart, because the city will change all of our drawings after we're done with them, and we'll have to go back and change them and do them again. So we don't want to do that. We just want to do it one time. So we work with all the various municipalities and agencies to get through the process all at the same time we're drawing. But timing-wise, if the pastor called early June and said, hey, we want y'all to start, and Aunt Sally sold the farm and we got all the money we need to do this, we could hit those timelines pretty easy. We'd start July the 1 on the first part of this. We'd start July 1 on the offices. We'd start July 1 on that. We'd start July 1 on everything else. And we would just play the drawings out like cards. Every time it was time to play the drawings out, we'd be ready to go. And we will do all that work in the next 6 to 8 to 9 months with the municipalities to get all those things solved. Now, I may find out that it takes a year to get that through the city of Tallahassee. Okay. So we start a year later instead of 9 months later. I understand how that works. So I was telling Pastor, I was in a meeting in Orange County, Florida. That's Orlando, for First Baptist Windermere in the late 90s, and had to meet with the building officials, and they had some very unusual requests. That's the nice way to say it. And we worked with them. We got all of those items solved. It took us about 3 months to get them comfortable where we were. But you just have to work through the process and follow their rules. And it may be a path that goes like this. I don't care. I just want to get to the end. And we'll do this with them if that's what they want to do. And every municipality is different. They have their own protocols. They have their own processes. But timing-wise, the long and short of it is what I told you we could easily do. And we'll let the city dictate the rest of it, provided you have the funds to do it. Now, I'll talk about funds in a minute. There's another question right there.
I guess this is maybe the ultimate question. Can you spitball what a cost for all of this is going to be?
Spitball a cost. Yeah, I'm not supposed to spit in church, but let me tell you, I have run some real rough. Let me say it again, real rough numbers. Okay? With contingencies at 15% and fees and soft costs and all that stuff. You know, I think to do these 4 phases, you're looking at somewhere between $4 and $5 million to pull all that off. That's to build that thing, build that new office and parking. I may find out I may be off $500,000. I'm not going to be off that much, but a spitball number that's probably being recorded, but nobody's going to go back and hold anybody to it because we don't have any. I mean, I'll tell you what the number's going to be when you tell me when you want to start. If you tell me you want to wait and start next year, I can't tell you what the number's going to be. I mean, the whole concept of tariffs, y'all ever heard of that word? I'm very supportive of where we're headed with all that, but I'm telling you, it's impacting the construction world right now. Supply chain impacted the construction world in 2020. Y'all remember 2020? Anybody remember back that far? 2020 was an interesting day, and in the construction world, it was even more interesting because you couldn't get anything. And some of that's still not solved. So some cost can be drastically impacted by that if we're talking about costs that might be 2027 before we start work on a project. But I'm probably not too far off. And so if that's fair enough for right now, at 30,000 feet with no detailed drawings and no contractor on board, they're there. So the number's out. Everybody take a big sigh of relief. We're not speaking to spend anything tonight. So, and we'll find out what those are going to be. We're going to do it in pieces. So it'll be a piece here and a piece there and a piece here and a piece there. All right, good questions. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the handicap entrance. Is that like a kind of a triangle and they're going in the front door?
We'll have a handicap ramp on both sides of the entrance stairs that'll let you come in from the handicap parking right out in front. We're going to turn all the parking in front of the building, right at the front of the building, down at that lower level. All of that parking will be handicap accessible. So you get out of your car, you come up a handicap ramp, get on a sidewalk, come up the ramp up to the sanctuary building, and roll right in that front door. If you're in a wheelchair, you will never have to do anything that's not handicapped accessible. Now, if you're in a cane or a walker and you want to walk up the steps, that's fine. You can walk up the ramp. The ramp will be handicapped. So you'll be able to park right there and come straight in the building. If you choose to be dropped off, you can be dropped off at that Welcome Center gathering covered space. That's right there. Thank you very much. And you can be dropped off right there and roll in the door in a wheelchair or walk in on a walker or a cane or whatever and walk right over here and never go up and down a step.
Okay, so these railings on the front of the sanctuary, out here,
Yes, ma'am.
they're not going to be there so that the people can get up there?
They will be there when I put them back. They just won't be where they are right now.
Well, how about the elevation of the ramp? Is that going to be something that they can handle?
Handicapped accessible.
Okay.
You switch back. You can slope a ramp 1 in 12. So every inch you drop, you can run 12 inches. So every foot you drop, you can run 12 feet. You can't run more than 30 feet till you have a flat. So I'll run 30 feet from that entrance door that way and 30 feet down that way. I won't be down to grade yet, so I'll have a flat section and turn and bring you back, and you'll end up right where you would be if you just walked right down the steps. But those steps that are there now, they're gone.
Thank you. I won't even go on them.
I can promise you, if you ever need them, you'll be able to park right out there. You bet. Next question. Yep, right there.
So I know this is like a far off project, but since you're talking about tariffs, is that going to affect getting any of the supplies or, I know it's going to, of course, affect cost at the current moment, but, supply and demand, that kind of thing, is that going to affect anything?
Say that again. I'm not sure I followed that question.
So the tariffs, as of right now, of course, are
Tariffs.
affecting, supply and demand.
Tariffs will be all solved
But yeah,
before we
I'm
ever start
hoping they'll
this.
be solved, but if they're not, do you think that would cause a problem
No.
as far as getting supplies?
No. Tariffs will not be an issue. I just mentioned that as one way of understanding cost controls are hard to manage in construction today. Tariffs will not have any issues on this project at all. I trust the dude in the White House. Yes, ma'am.
So
Sir.
you say you're going to put rails up on both sides on the handicap ramp for people who want to walk up and still have the handrails to use as a
They'll have
guide?
handrails to use on both sides required by code. There'll be the ramp will be 5 feet wide, and there'll be a handrail on both sides.
And so
all
you're
the
going to
way
have
up.
so you're going to have a landing spot come flat, then drop down again, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It'll take that to make the grade change.
Yeah. All right. So now, what about the lighting out front?
That'll all be reworked if it's necessary.
Even on the front of the church? That'd be a little
Even
bit
on
more
the front of the
brighter
church, yes, sir.
At night? Okay.
We haven't studied those details yet, but obviously we'll have to provide adequate lighting out there for any night activities. It is a little dark. I was here when Ernie Haas was here. Ernie's a good friend, and I was here when that event was January, back in January. Yeah, and it's a little dark. Yes.
They're on the front of the church where the steps are. Is
Yes,
there
sir.
going to be a roof over those steps?
There's not a roof planned right now.
Okay.
If the committee and pastor and church decides they want a roof over that, we could do that. I would prefer architecturally to not do that there. I prefer to do it with the covered drop-off over here and solve the roofing issue there and not do it there. Architecturally, this building makes a pretty interesting statement on the street, and I just really don't want to mess with that too much. Yeah, another question? Yeah.
Yeah, one more. These glulam columns and beams restoration,
Yes.
you say we're going, why not just get new ones instead of restoring what we've got?
That's a great question. Y'all understand the question? The glue lamb structures, not these inside, but if you see the tops of these, they go out and cover the roof for the covered walkway that goes out. So they go out and they turn and come down to the ground and they sit on an aluminum plate. And the bottoms of those columns, a lot of them have begun to rot, just water damage over the years. So we're going to repair those. To replace them would mean massive shoring of all this roof structure. Interesting thing with glue lamb arches like this, number one, they're gorgeous. But number two, you can't take any of them out for a period of time to replace them without completely shoring the structure around them. And I was sitting in his office this afternoon, and I called my structural engineer, and I said, okay, dude, you're a glue lamb guru. How do I fix these things? He said, piece of cake, do it all the time, not a problem. Just tell them we got it figured out. We know what we're going to do. Send me some pictures, but we're not going to take them out. They're fine once you get up above the rotten wood. So we're just going to re-anchor that structure differently, and he told me how to do it. So if he says it can do it, I'll sleep at night. Yes, sir.
Curtis, as I walk over here, Curtis, I know that somebody had asked online in an email about covered parking or covered walkway and the handicap and by the Family Life Center. Tell them a little bit what we talked about with covering that walkway.
Okay, so when I got here, Brother Jim mentioned that question to me. We walked over and looked at it. You have a covered walkway that goes from Family Life Center over to the children's building. Sort of, kind of. It's not exactly that, but it comes from one to the other. Okay, so a couple of options. Number one, at the appropriate time in the future, we'll get a contractor to look at it with us to see if it's more cost effective to salvage that structure and pick it up and move it and set it in front of the Family Life Center so we have cover for the handicap parking that's in front of that building? Or is it more cost effective to deep six that and put another one just like it out in front of it? But either way, if we need handicap parking in front of the Family Life Center, I told you it's a piece of cake. It's a piece of cake. It's not an issue. So it's easy to do. Yes, sir. Question. Yes, ma'am.
I think this is an easy one. This is phase one. Is there a phase two?
There's a phase 2, a phase 3, a phase 4, and a phase 5.
Really?
They're just not ready to show you yet. And the reason they're not is because the pastor wanted to get phase 1 started this summer and early fall. Now, I'm speaking for the pastor, so you can change that whatever you want to change. I yield to him. But if we waited to get phases 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 29, whatever it is, if we waited to get all those done, it'd be this fall before we could present all that to you, which means we would lose the summer and fall to start anything. And he felt more confident trying to get us to do this piece and then come back and show you the rest of it. So we're not hiding anything. It's just not finished to show it to you. It's at the same level as this, still 30,000 feet conceptual. And the committee has seen it. We're going to be meeting here in a little bit, and we'll walk through some more details of that and continue to work on that. And I would venture to say that sometime after y'all get back from summer and school gets started again and September rolls around, I think y'all got your football coach on the hot seat. I think I already heard somebody tell me that. So one of those Sundays when they're out of town, or Saturdays when they're out of town playing, we'll have a Sunday presentation on Sunday night, and we'll show you the rest of it. And you can look at all it and see how we're going to put all that together too. But there are multiple phases. This is just the first of several. My goal, I'm not Dr. Brian Robertson. My goal is, there was a slide that y'all show before your services. You're celebrating your 90th year this year, all right? My goal is when you're celebrating your 100th year, the master plan is done. And everything we're showing in it is done. In fact, we were talking about that just a minute ago. I would love to see that happen. Now, I'm not your pastor, and I'm certainly not God. Now, my 3 grandchildren think I am. Y'all don't tell them any different. But I'm neither of those. And I don't dictate how this goes. That's just my goal and my desire. I think it would be phenomenal to have a huge celebration for 100 years, and the church and the community see Emmanuel Baptist Church really on a launch pad to do something completely different. I had a pastor friend of mine back in, you remember Jim Futrell? Executive. He was a pastor at Broadmoor Baptist Church in Jackson, Mississippi. I helped him move from Jackson to Madison, Mississippi. He then became the executive director of the Mississippi Baptist Convention. He's a good friend. He told his church when they were moving, he said, you know, most of the thrust that is spent to get the Apollo rockets back in the 90s for the space shuttle, get the Apollo rockets to the moon and back, is expended in the first 2.5 minutes of the flight. Now, if you think about that for a minute, that makes sense, right? Get out of the Earth's atmosphere and all the gravitational pull. It takes nothing to go from outside the atmosphere to the moon and back. By the launch pad that you will be building in this master plan, you will be able to then launch from outer space, which is the whole principle behind the space station. Because once you're up there, the same amount of thrust that it took to get to the space station, you can get past Mars and back. So if you do what all this is heading toward doing, you're seeing the first piece of this. It will position your church to a place where you can reach broader, deeper, and more intense for the gospel, anything that you could ever do with what you currently have. So it's exciting to be a part of what you're doing. Not my idea, it's all his, but you need to understand this is a fun thing. Yes, sir.
Comment, it looks like 1A is more repair than
It is.
anything else.
It
so
is.
Permitting for 1A ought to be a piece of cake.
Should be a piece of cake. The only thing we're actually doing that would cause them permitting issues is I'm changing the front entrance.
But that's pretty minor and
It's
has
minor.
almost
Shouldn't be a
zero
big deal.
impact on water runoff and drainage or anything else.
Shouldn't be a big deal at all. You're correct. I don't anticipate any issues there. And when we meet with them, we will show them everything that you've seen the very first time. It's easier to just show them the whole enchilada and let them react all at one time. And then we'll fix whatever issues are. There's going to be some civil issues, but not in this first thing. This is repair and maintenance for the first thing, other than fixing the steps to make that handicap accessible. And they should all jump for joy downtown when we take that to them.
Question in retrospect, and I know this isn't really a question for you, but we just did the roof on this building here only a couple of years ago. Why on earth didn't this get done properly?
I'll answer that, Curtis.
Go ahead.
I think sometimes when you go with the lower bid, I wasn't here during that time, but from what I've understood, I think sometimes when you go and try to maybe go with a lower bid to save money, I think sometimes you get the results of poor work. You get what you pay for. Thank you, James Shealy. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
with the
not
rain.
going. I'm not going to do it the wrong way.
If it doesn't, Curtis will come with a bucket every time it rains and catch the water.
Yeah, I don't believe in buckets in churches, except to collect money. And buckets to collect water belong in the, let's just say, other denominations. Not here. All right. Any other questions? Nobody's asked what the color of the carpet is. Yes, ma'am. Wait a minute. We got to get you on the microphone.
Oh, of course. I guess my question is, and I'm not sure if this is the right place, but in Phase 1A, are there any plans for when they do the lobby to improve the handicap conditions in the bathrooms? Because right now it's very difficult.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay.
All right, so let me answer that question at this moment, and then I'm going to give you a caveat to it, because our current thought process is, and the way the code reads, now I'm not going to speak for the municipality downtown. The way the code reads, I have to provide handicapped restrooms in buildings. I don't have to provide handicapped restrooms at every restroom in a building. Okay? That make sense? Okay. So we would make this lobby bigger by getting rid of the 2 rooms and leave the bathrooms the way they are. Now, we may do some cosmetic work, but we're not going to change them. But the bathrooms that are right back here have to be changed to accommodate what we have planned to do back there, and they will become fully handicapped accessible. So this building will have fully code compliant, ADA supportive bathrooms for men and women in the building. Probably, unless we're made to do it, and I've been made to do some really weird things before, if they make us do that, then we'll do them out here too. I don't think they will. I think those will be fine the way they are, but we will fix these. That and this is part of 1D. And so when we finish that, you'll have handicapped accessible restrooms for this building. Okay? Good question. Anybody else? The carpet will be Razorback red, so we'll just solve that one.
David Fountain, you have asked 5 questions. You are using your
He's
questions.
got a lot of questions, Jim.
Well, he's using his questions up for the next time we have a meeting, so I'm just letting him know.
It's a competition.
You win.
You told us this would be about 4 to 5 million for these first 4 phases.
Yeah, remember now, that was a
I
rough
understand.
estimate.
You're not to be held to those numbers. Considering the entire project, the other phases that you guys are still working on, what is your guesstimation of the total cost of doing all the phases that you have been thinking about?
I don't have the foggiest idea.
Is it somewhere short of the national debt?
It is short of the national debt. That's a good question, and we will be putting those numbers together as we develop these phases. Some of that stuff is still so far out in discussions and drawings. I could spitball a number today, and it'd be about as good as a $3 bill. Y'all ever seen a $3 bill? I've never seen a $3 bill, so it ain't very good, is it? So anyway, good question. Anything else? Anybody else? Come on, you're Baptist. You got to have more questions than that. We hadn't been doing this for very long yet. Jim sang for 45 minutes before we got up here. All right, did we answer your questions? Everybody feel good about all of it? Okay? Pastor, it's all yours.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you so much. Now you know why we love Curtis, and we're so grateful God brought him to Emmanuel Baptist Church to serve in this way. I don't want to do the missionary moment for this evening, but I do want to make you guys aware of some prayer needs we do have. Be in prayer for Bob Brumley. Bob is one of our deacons. He is having procedure tomorrow, so please be in prayer for him. Miss Mary also, Randall Pacioli. Randall will be having a procedure on Friday. Be praying for him. Ed Hightower shot me a message yesterday. His brother Bill is in ICU, not doing well. Please pray for Bill. Also continue to pray for Ed. I'll give you an update on Emmy. Emmy went to rheumatologist, I think it was, no, neurologist today. They are recommending her to Shands. And so we are just in the beginning stages of doing that follow-up and all those kinds of things to try and find out what's going on with her. Continue to pray for Jerry Mowry also. And then Miss Colleen Stokes' family, certainly have been praying for them. I was coming back from Mother's Day at Mom and Dad's on Sunday afternoon. I called Jim just to ask him a quick thing. He said, "Oh, are you calling to ask about Colleen Stokes?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, she just passed away." And I said, "Oh my goodness." So we had to come back here to grab a car. Ann and I went immediately to the house, spent time with the family. But be in prayer for that family. Visitation in the morning is here at IBC at 10 o'clock, service at 11 o'clock. If you like music, there's going to be a lot of singing, okay? And Brother Brian will try to keep my message extremely short. Somebody say amen. Anyway, I tell families I speak like 12 minutes maybe at a homegoing service, 15 minutes, about 12 minutes with about a 4-minute evangelistic opportunity for people to come to faith in Christ. Your pastor loves you. What you've seen on the board is just a snippet of what I believe God has in store for IBC. Would you join me as we go to the Lord in prayer, and we trust Him with all of these things. Heavenly Father, we give you glory. Father, our lives are not based on us or what we can or cannot do. They're based upon the infinite and almighty power of the living God. I thank you, Father, that all of the resources in my life that I have are resources that you've entrusted to me. And Lord, you've called upon me to be faithful with them. And so, Lord, I pray that each one of us here this evening, I pray that each one of us watching, I pray each person who will ever become a faithful member of this church family, Lord, we will always have that understanding that everything we have, ultimately, God, it belongs to you. And Lord, I pray that we'll be faithful in that matter. Father, forgive us of our sin. Forgive us of our shortcomings. Forgive us, Lord, when we put things of this world above the things of God. Lord, I pray that each one of us would have a deeper heart for lostness, to reach lostness with the gospel of Jesus Christ, to unashamedly proclaim the gospel to the ends of the earth. As our vision statement says, we want to seek God in everything, to serve one another, and then to share Jesus. Father, may that always, always be the cry, not only of this fellowship on Mahan Drive, but God, of every fellowship and every Bible-believing church in this world. That's what we ought to be about. We pray for these requests, certainly pray for all of those, Lord, in our prayer guide this evening. Pray for those who are serving in our military armed forces. Pray, Lord, for those who are serving in leadership. Father, we pray for humility. We're praying for spiritual awakening and revival. God, may it begin in me. May it begin in us. Father, break us for what breaks your heart. And may we never, ever, ever, Lord, stop doing what you've called us to do as long as we have breath to do it. Father, Jesus must increase and we must decrease. In His precious name we pray. Amen. I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday.